Well, thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us.
You're welcome.
What's it like living with people who essentially are still leading a Stone Age life?
It's pretty humbling. I mean, I've spent off and on quite a bit of time over the last year in Tanzania working with the Hadzabe, which is one of the last, actually it probably is the last hunter-gatherer group in all of Africa. I'll actually adopt the Hadza diet while I'm there. So I'll go for 10 days or a couple of weeks. I'll live in a grass hut. I'll eat their food, drink their water, and I collect my stool samples and monitor how, can you take my Western gut and make it look like a Hadza hunter-gatherer? We haven't analyzed that data yet, but I'm suspecting that I can acquire a lot of this diversity by being in their environment and eating their diet. And changing my diet, not so much per se, because I already consumed a lot of dietary fiber. I eat meat every day, and I have extremely, what I would consider, healthy gut microbiota. And I eat a lot of meat. It's not the meat. People tend to demonize meat. What's lacking in our Western diet is dietary fiber. So if people can consume a larger quantity and diversity of plants, and I tell people try to consume between 25 and 30 species of plants a week. Just write it down every day for a week. Try to get 25 or 30 species, and by default, you're going to be eating a lot larger quantity. And we know that diversity and quantity will promote an increased diversity of bacteria in the gut. So at the end of the day, probiotics are fine, all these things are fine, but at the end of the day, the thing that will most benefit you, or a thing that's easy to do that we can all do, is eat a larger quantity and diversity of dietary fiber, which means eating more whole plants.
You're thinking of, for research purposes, of perhaps trying a fecal transplant with Hadza people.
So what I wanted to do was to replace my inner ecosystem with the ecosystem of a Hadza hunter-gatherer. So in other words, I'm going to try to replace all the microbial genes in my body with probably the microbiota of a 20-year-old Hadza male that we've screened for viruses and parasites. So the question is this: if I can successfully receive a fecal transplant from a Hadza hunter-gatherer, which it's never been done before, will it take? And then the question, I'm going to do it in Tanzania. So the question is when I go back to the United States, the question, and I return to my Western lifestyle, does that diversity drop off? And if it does drop off, and I go back to Africa for, let's say, another few months, does that diversity come back, or do these species go extinct? Either one will be interesting, but I think what we're going to see is I'm going to undergo a mass extinction by coming back to the States, and I'm going to basically wipe out a lot of these bacteria that I receive. So the implications of that are pretty profound. So hopefully I end up okay and don't get sick or anything, but again, we're still working through the ethical issues on it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to go through with it.
Yeah, it's interesting the men eat a different diet to the women in the Hadza people. Have you noticed any consequences of that?
No, it's an interesting observation. If you take 1,000 people in Australia or the United States and you split them up, men and women, evenly, basically at the phylum level, men and women look identical, meaning we share the same bacteria. And the reason we do is because we live in the same houses. We typically eat the same meals as our spouses. And we buy the same groceries week after week, and we all eat those things. But the Hadza represent how people live for millions of years. The men hunt game and they collect honey. Women dig tubers. So we expected to see the bacteria different in men and women, and that's exactly what we see. But this is the first time that we now know that, at least from an evolutionary perspective, men and women probably have evolved different relationships with different suites of bacteria based on this sexual division of labor and the food that's consumed. So the implications for it are kind of unknown at this point, but to crystal ball this, looking down the road maybe 5 years, there may be advice coming down the pipe that suggests women should harbor a different combination of bacteria than men. And it's pretty exciting if we can actually fine-tune it like that.